The Subtle Art of Not Giving a FCK by Mark Manson is a self-help book that challenges readers to reframe their attitudes towards life and the pursuit of happiness. In Chapter 1, Don't Try, Manson argues that the key to a fulfilling life is not trying to be happy all the time, but rather accepting and embracing the struggles that come with it. Manson starts the chapter by discussing the pervasive cultural message that happiness is the ultimate goal in life. He notes that we are bombarded with messages that tell us to follow our dreams and never give up, and that we are constantly told that happiness is just a few steps away if we just work hard enough. However, Manson argues that this mindset is not only unhelpful but actually harmful, as it sets us up for disappointment and failure. According to Manson, the problem with the pursuit of happiness is that it is a never-ending cycle. No matter how much we achieve, we always want more, and this creates a sense of constant dissatisfaction. Manson calls this the feedback loop from hell, where we chase after happiness but never quite catch it. Instead of trying to be happy all the time, Manson suggests that we focus on the struggles and challenges that come with life. He argues that these struggles are an inevitable part of the human experience and that accepting and embracing them can actually lead to a more fulfilling life. Manson points out that some of the most meaningful experiences in life come from overcoming challenges and that trying to avoid them only leads to a sense of emptiness and boredom. Manson concludes the chapter by encouraging readers to stop trying so hard to be happy and to start focusing on what really matters in life. He suggests that we embrace our imperfections and limitations and stop comparing ourselves to others. Instead, we should focus on developing a sense of purpose and meaning in our lives and accept that there will be struggles along the way. Overall, Chapter 1 of The Subtle Art of Not Giving a FCK sets the tone for the rest of the book, challenging readers to rethink their attitudes towards happiness and fulfillment. Manson's message is clear: stop trying so hard to be happy and start embracing the struggles that come with life. In Chapter 2 of The Subtle Art of Not Giving a FCK, author Mark Manson explores the concept that happiness is not only elusive but also a problem in and of itself. He argues that our pursuit of happiness has led to an obsession with positivity and the avoidance of negative emotions, which actually causes us more harm than good. Manson begins the chapter by pointing out that we live in a culture that is obsessed with happiness. We are bombarded with messages that tell us to be positive and think happy thoughts, and that we should avoid anything that might make us feel sad or anxious. However, Manson argues that this mindset is flawed because it sets us up for disappointment and leaves us ill-equipped to deal with the inevitable struggles and challenges that come with life. According to Manson, the pursuit of happiness is actually the root of many of our problems. He argues that the more we chase after happiness, the more anxious and dissatisfied we become, as we are constantly measuring ourselves against an impossible standard. Manson calls this the expectation trap, where we set unrealistic expectations for ourselves and then feel disappointed when we inevitably fall short. Manson also argues that our obsession with happiness has led us to undervalue negative emotions such as sadness, anger, and anxiety. He suggests that these emotions are not only natural but also necessary for our growth and development. Negative emotions can help us learn from our mistakes and motivate us to make positive changes in our lives. Manson concludes the chapter by suggesting that we need to change our attitude towards happiness. Rather than trying to avoid negative emotions and chasing after happiness, we should accept that life is inherently difficult and that negative emotions are a natural part of the human experience. Manson suggests that we should focus on developing resilience and the ability to deal with adversity, rather than simply trying to be happy all the time. Overall, Chapter 2 of The Subtle Art of Not Giving a FCK provides a compelling argument for why our obsession with happiness is actually causing us more harm than good. Manson's message is clear: rather than trying to avoid negative emotions and chase after happiness, we should accept that life is difficult and focus on developing resilience and the ability to deal with adversity. Chapter 3 of The Subtle Art of Not Giving a FCK by Mark Manson is titled You Are Not Special. In this chapter, Manson challenges the notion that everyone is unique and special, and argues that this mindset can actually lead to feelings of entitlement and disappointment. Manson begins the chapter by discussing the pervasive cultural message that everyone is special and unique. He points out that we are constantly told that we can be anything we want to be, and that we should follow our dreams no matter what. However, Manson argues that this mindset is not only unhelpful but also dangerous, as it can lead to a sense of entitlement and unrealistic expectations. According to Manson, the problem with the belief that everyone is special is that it creates unrealistic expectations for ourselves and others. We expect to achieve great things and stand out from the crowd, and when we inevitably fall short, we feel disappointed and disillusioned. Manson calls this the disappointment panda, where we set unrealistic expectations for ourselves and then feel let down when we don't achieve them. Manson also argues that the belief that everyone is special can lead to a sense of entitlement. When we believe that we are unique and special, we may feel that we deserve special treatment or recognition, even if we haven't actually achieved anything. This entitlement can lead to a lack of effort and a sense of entitlement. Manson concludes the chapter by suggesting that we need to change our mindset towards the belief that everyone is special. He argues that we need to accept that we are not unique and that we are not entitled to anything. Instead, Manson suggests that we focus on developing skills and putting in the hard work necessary to achieve our goals. We should also accept that we will inevitably face challenges and setbacks along the way. Overall, Chapter 3 of The Subtle Art of Not Giving a FCK challenges the pervasive cultural message that everyone is special and argues that this mindset can actually lead to feelings of entitlement and disappointment. Manson's message is clear: we need to accept that we are not unique and focus on putting in the hard work necessary to achieve our goals. Chapter 4 of The Subtle Art of Not Giving a FCK by Mark Manson is titled The Value of Suffering. In this chapter, Manson argues that suffering is an inevitable part of life and that we should embrace it as a means of personal growth and self-improvement. Manson begins the chapter by discussing the human tendency to avoid suffering at all costs. He argues that we are wired to seek pleasure and avoid pain, and that this mindset has led us to expect a life free of suffering. However, Manson argues that this is a flawed mindset, as suffering is an inevitable part of life and can actually be a valuable tool for personal growth. According to Manson, suffering can teach us important lessons and help us grow as individuals. When we experience pain or hardship, we are forced to confront our limitations and weaknesses, which can ultimately lead to personal growth and self-improvement. Manson calls this the shitty value system, where we embrace suffering as a means of personal growth and self-improvement. Manson also argues that the pursuit of pleasure and the avoidance of pain can actually lead to more suffering in the long run. When we avoid difficult or uncomfortable situations, we may be denying ourselves the opportunity to learn and grow, which can ultimately lead to greater suffering down the road. Manson concludes the chapter by suggesting that we need to change our attitude towards suffering. Rather than trying to avoid it at all costs, we should embrace it as a natural part of life and use it as a means of personal growth and self-improvement. Manson suggests that we should focus on developing resilience and the ability to deal with adversity, rather than simply trying to avoid pain and discomfort. Overall, Chapter 4 of The Subtle Art of Not Giving a FCK provides a compelling argument for the value of suffering in our lives. Manson's message is clear: suffering is an inevitable part of life, and we should embrace it as a means of personal growth and self-improvement. Rather than trying to avoid pain and discomfort, we should focus on developing resilience and the ability to deal with adversity.